I recently released a video on how to take N8N and set that up on xCloud super quickly and easily and have your own basically free Zapier alternative. So you can do automations for loads of different things. One of the common questions there was people wanted to know more. How do you get started using N8N? So in this video, we're going to take a simple example, but we'll explain some of the key core fundamental things you need to know about getting started with a tool like N8N. Now, quick TLDR, if you don't know what N8N actually is, imagine this like an automation server that allows you to have triggers, for example, submitting a form, and then you can have actions. So for example, sending a message to Slack, updating content on a Google Sheet, sending an email out, adding details to your CRM. So many different things you can do here with lots of logic and things like that. But we're going to keep it really simple and straightforward in this video so you get an understanding of how to get started. For this video, we're going to have a really simple two-step process. The first step, the trigger, is going to submit a form via Bricks. Imagine it's like a support form. And then you're going to have a message sent over to Slack where all of your support team are, and they can then handle that overall support request. Very simple example, but shows you the fundamentals of how to connect things together and get things talking and working, but also understanding a little bit about how these triggers, automation, and the data flow between them actually works. So first things first, let's set up the webhook, the first thing that we need to do. So first things first, inside N8N, we're going to go and create our first workflow. Now, if you want to learn how to set up N8N on xCloud for no additional cost over your hosting, check out this video here. It'll teach you how to do it all. Super easy. So first things first, let's create our workflow. There's our blank workflow. So this is basically a from left to right process. First thing we need to do, set up the trigger. The trigger is then what puts into play all the different actions we want to take afterwards. So before we do any of that, let's give this a name. We'll call this Bricks support request. So let's click on add first step. This is where we'll see and set the trigger. Now the trigger is what is used to get everything else working. In our example, it's submitting a form via Bricks. So what we're going to do is we're going to say on webhook call. We're going to use a webhook to connect our form. So we're using Bricks 2.0, which has the webhook functionality, and then that will send the data over into N8N. So let's set that on webhook call. Okay, so that then opens up this kind of daunting looking sort of interface. What exactly do we do here? Well, the first thing we need to do is actually set up a connection to our WordPress website. These are called credentials. Now, at the moment, we don't have anything set up. So let's deal with that. Let's back out of this. Let's make sure we save this. And we're going to come up to the plus and we're going to say credential. So then it asks us, what kind of credentials do you want to set up? Now, the cool thing about this is once you set up the credentials for a connection to, for example, your website via your webhook or to an external service like Slack, for example, whenever you want to use that connection, it's stored as a credential. So you can keep on using it without having to put those same connection details in every single time. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for WordPress, and there's the WordPress API. We'll select it and click continue. And this now needs a little bit of information. It needs the username, the password, and the URL to your website. Now, I would always recommend when you do something like this, don't use your main admin account. Set up a dedicated user account specifically for this N8N connection and credentials. Important thing to remember here is don't use your main password for that admin account. Come into your dashboard, go into the profile for that admin user, scroll down until you get to the application password section. Give the application password a name, like N8N, for example. Then click on add application password, and that will generate a unique password. Copy that and use that. Then if there's any problems, you can revoke that at any point in time and set a new password without messing about with the actual account itself. Just makes things a little bit easier. I've already done this. I put the details in and I've connected everything up. But like I say, 3 pieces of info: the username, the password, and the URL to your site. You don't need to go to the admin or anything, just literally the URL for your site. Once that's done, hit save, and it should come back and tell you everything is connected correctly, as long as those credentials are correct. And then once you've got that, you'll see you have this, in this case, WordPress account. So we click on open up, you can see there's my connection, it's tested successfully, my username, my password, and the link to my website. So now those credentials are in place, let's go back to our workflows, open our support request, click on our webhook, and then we're back into this. So the first thing you want us to do is to listen for the data from that webhook, from our form. So there's a couple of things we need to do here. First things first, we need to set the HTTP method. In this example, we want to handle this via post. We're going to leave everything else underneath as it is. We're not going to touch those. But what we are going to do is make sure we're on the test URL. I'm going to click to copy this. Simple as that. Now, before we start listening for an event, let's go over to our copy of bricks with our form and set up the webhook inside there. So here's our form. It's a very simple form with a couple of basic pieces of information. The data inside here will be passed over into N8N anyway, so you can have as simple or as complex as needed. So first things first, let's come out to our actions. We don't want the email inside here. We're going to get rid of that. What I would generally recommend is a better way of working for a lot of use cases is handling everything inside N8N. So if you want to send an email with details, do it inside there. Then instead of having a bit inside bricks, a bit inside N8N and getting confused as to where things are, if you basically just pass over the webhook and then handle everything inside N8N, it's going to mean that you've got one point that you can check out if something is failing. So let's set this to be the webhook. Let's then open up the webhook options and you'll see we've got an endpoint inside here. If you don't, you simply click on add an endpoint. Let's open this up. You can give this a name if you want to. All you really need to do though is pop in your endpoint URL, which is what we just copied from N8N. So we'll paste that inside there. And our data format needs to be, in this example, form data. We don't need to fill in anything to do with the data or the headers, although if you only want to pass over specific information, you can add that information inside here in the format that Bricks suggests. I want to pass everything over, so I'm going to leave everything as it is. We'll now hit save. We'll open up a preview of this form. But before we submit this, let's go back into N8N and say, listen for test event. That will now listen for that form to be posted. Let's fill out some data. There we go. And we'll hit submit form. And you can see message successfully sent. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. That's successfully connected up and sent that data over via the webhook. Now let's go back to N8N. And now you can see all the data we have pulled in from that webhook, from that form being submitted from Bricks, is now listed on the right-hand side. So we can see all the data has been pulled in successfully. So our trigger is working. We are done for now. Let's go back to your canvas so they can see that's now a green tick. Everything is green, so it's all working correctly. So the next thing we need to do now is specify what the action is. In this example, we want to connect it up to Slack and send a message to our Slack account. So let's click on the plus, and all we're going to do is come over there and we're going to search for Slack, and there it is. Click to add that in, and you'll see we've got 42 different actions. We simply want to send a message to a specific Slack channel, but there's tons more things you can do here. Let's search for message and say send a message, and there we go. So again, we get a similar kind of entry, but we have different information here. This isn't a trigger, so it's not waiting for webhook information. It's already got that. So now down the left-hand side, there's all the webhook data is pulled in from our form. So if we scroll down a little bit, you can see the body, Paul C, no email, comment here, it's a Bricks form submit, etc. So we've got that data ready. So, okay, what do we want to do? Well, we obviously need to connect this to our Slack account. Now, I've already set up a connection here, but if you don't know how to do this and you want a full detailed tutorial, let me know down below and in the comment section. If enough people are interested, I will create that. But let me quickly go through and show you the basics of what you're going to need to grab the data. So again, let's just come back out of this. It's already there. You'll see that's now red with an X telling us this hasn't been configured. This isn't working correctly. But that's fine for now. We'll hit save, come back out to our plus and go back into our credentials. Let's close this down a second. So there's my Slack account. If we open this up, you can see I've got a couple of different connection options, our access token and our signature secret. So where do we get that information and how do we go and set this up? Well, let's come and say we want to add a new credential. We'll search for Slack and you've got Slack API and Slack OAuth API. Choose the Slack API and continue. That asks for an access token and a secret signature. However, if you want to do this a different way, again, create a credential. We'll do Slack. This time we'll choose the OAuth. continue. And this now asks for different connection information. So you can choose which is your preference. For me, for ease, I found the API is probably the easiest way. So all you need to do, click create your credentials, Slack, API, continue, access token and signature secret. So how do we get those? Simply head over to Slack API, link in the description down below, and you need to create a new app. So you click on your apps, create a new app, and follow the information you need to insert inside there. So if we click on open this up, you can see we want to say from scratch. You can give it a name, select a workspace. In this case, I've got a workspace set up, which you have to do with Slack anyway. And then you go through the create an app. Once you've done all that, you'll then have an app available to you. You can see I've already got one created. If you open this up, that will show you various pieces of information underneath the app credentials. So we need the access token and the signature secret. So first things first, grab your signing secret. You can show this and copy it, then head back over into N8N, pop that into your signature secret. Then we need to grab the access token. So again, head back over into your Slack API. This time, come down to the OAuth and permissions. And inside there, you're going to have your bot user OAuth token. Copy that and then use that as your access token. Hit save, and providing everything has been inserted correctly, your connection should then be set up. Now you may have some additional options that need to be set up, and you do need to connect your bot to your channel. So this is my Slack channel, and as you can see, there's my all WPTuts. I've already added in my bot, but you're probably going to need to add this in to your chat to get it connected and everything working the way you need. So once all that is set up and connected, we are then good to go. So let's go back into our workflow, open our support request up, select our Slack, double click. So back inside the Slack message, make sure we've got our Slack account selected. Our resource is message, that's perfectly fine. And the operation is send. We obviously want to send this over. So then message send to. Let's open this up and we're going to say we want to send this over to our channel. Select that, and now because we've got our connection connected up to Slack, we can choose what channel we want this to be posted in. So as I said, I've got this set up to go into my all WPTuts channel, but you may have one for sort of support requests and things like that. Just choose the right one. Then we've got our message text. So let's just make sure this works before we worry about mapping any data. So we'll just say test message. Click execute step. Providing everything is okay, we'll then see the input on the left-hand side, which is from our form, and the output on the right-hand side, which is the data being sent over into Slack. So let's now jump into Slack. And as you can see, inside my all WPTuts channel, we've got the test message in there. So everything is connected and working the way we need. So now we can go back and we can customize and make the actual message actually useful. Test message doesn't mean anything. So go back into N8N, and now where we've got our message, let's change this. Let's get rid of what's inside there. All we can do is we can grab data from the left-hand side. So like I said earlier on, we took a look under the body section, and there's all of the different pieces of information that's actually come over from the form inside Bricks, so a support form. So let's just add some details in. So we'll just pop in sender, and we'll drop in their name. So drag that over, drop it in, and you can see now that's mapped that in. So we've got this code that tells it exactly what data we want to pull in. So we can just now go to the next line, pop in their email, for example, and grab their email address. Again, drop that in. You see that puts the code in. We have a little preview underneath what this is going to look like. And then we'll just say their support message, and we'll add in their actual message. So now if we take a look underneath, you can see there's the data being mapped in. So let's test this, execute it, and as you can see, we've got a little green check telling us, yep, everything is executed correctly. Let's go back to our canvas, and now we've got 2 green check marks. If we save this, we'll make it active, but before we do, we've got one more thing we need to do. First of all, let's go and check in Slack. There you go, there's our message. So from Paul C, the email address and the message itself. Cool, that's all working. So now we've got everything set up and working. We need to make this a production ready automation. So we're going to go back into N8N. We're going to open up our webhook by double clicking. And we're going to change this from test URL to production URL. Copy that, head back over into Bricks. And now we need to come back to our form, make sure we've got our endpoint open for our webhook, and change this test one, insert the live one, hit save. And we now have everything set up and configured. So when a support request comes in, it will automatically add a new message into Slack, grabbing the data of the name, the email address, and the message or the problem the end user is experiencing. And then our troubleshooting agent can deal with it via Slack. So we've now got a more comprehensive support request, including a link to a video. So you obviously want to help our tech support agent out. We'll submit our form. There we go. Successfully sent that form. Let's go and take a look at Slack. And there is our more comprehensive message with our link and with our video showing inline inside Slack itself. So this is really just scratching the surface of what you could do using a tool like N8N and connecting that up to WordPress or any of the myriad other tools. Hopefully this has given you an insight into how you can get started using N8N for yourself. And as always, I welcome any comments, questions, or feedback. Drop those in the comment section down below. As always, all applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.